Hello, it's me, Mike Ambrose. You know me as the host of Master Mike's Wrestling Paradise. But today I'm going to be doing a book review. And the book I'm reviewing is a book I just completed called Sitting Ringside Volume 1 by David Penzer with Guy Evans. Guy Evans is the author of Nitro, which I've told you before. And I thought it was a really interesting book. Told a lot of good stories behind the scenes of WCW and how he got into the wrestling business. And started off first. He grew up in South Florida. Growing up in South Florida, his father was a psychologist. And he was a fan of CWF, of course, Championship Wrestling Florida, which was run by the Graham family. Dusty Rhodes was there. He was the big star there. Jack Briscoe. I actually started watching back in 1986 when I moved to Florida, but it was at the tail end. I remember Lex Luger was there and Outlaw Ron Bass, Bruiser Brody, and a lot of other names. Barry Windham. But, yeah, he does that. He started watching wrestling then. He became a disc jockey in high school. He always wanted to go into wrestling, but he didn't know I was going to get there yet. It opens up about his struggles with anxiety, which I thought took a lot of guts, especially in this day and age with mental health and stuff. We all have our anxious moments, but we all work through them. Got into wrestling while working his father's limo business at the time. It's a guy by the name of Red Roberts, and he got him into GWA, which was the Global Wrestling Alliance. It was based out of Hollywood, Florida. If you don't know where Hollywood is, it's a suburb of Fort Lauderdale, not Hollywood, California. He meets Bob Roop and Great Malenko, and they take him under their wings. By the way, I watched the video of Global Wrestling Alliance, and they had a show based in, like I said, Hollywood, Florida, and there was a hotel called the Diplomat where they did their tapings. Pretty fun stuff. They had like videos outside a pool doing vignettes. I believe Adrian Street was on it, Norman Smiley, Dean Malenko, and his brother Joe were tag team. Look it out, check it out. It's pretty fun to see these obscure wrestling companies. He helps, Dave Penzer helps promote the company locally, Street Team. He also, part of it was Alex Marvez, who was in AEW as of late. He's a well-known sports guy as well, wrestling too. Does a national column he was doing for a while. The GWA closes, and he ends up working on a cruise ship where he meets his future wife, Lisa. So that's really nice. Ends up promoting shows with Bob Roop. They got a ring set, and they started promoting shows. And he got backstage at the Clash of Champions in Miami Beach. I remember it's the second one, because I've seen them. That was the second one. The first one was the one in Greensboro, but second one's in Miami. And meets Ric Flair backstage, and Flair cuts a promo on Mr. Penzer here. He like, what are you doing? Not those words, but he gets a little, shall I say, a little bit F-bomby. But, no, you know, they eventually will become friends later on down the road, so it all worked out good between them. And he ends up, Bob Roop goes to WCW when Ole Anderson is in charge and gets David Penzer a job there. And he starts driving the local Florida talent to be enhancement talent. Because WCW did their tapings in Georgia, it's the Carolinas, Florida too. You know, the whole southeast area. Center Stage in Atlanta where they did WCW tapings. A lot of the other small arenas, they did tapings for Worldwide and Pro. WCW Pro, WCW Worldwide, the main WCW main event. But Center Stage where those had their WCW's tapings. Saturday night, WCW Saturday night tapings were always at Center Stage in Atlanta. Stories of the Ramada in Atlanta called The Dungeon, which were pretty wild. Told some Iron Sheik stories. You know how those go. Yeah, Sheik was something. Eventually moves up to Timekeeper. And he talks about his experience as a Timekeeper at the Wrestle War 92 with Sting Squadron against the Dangerous Alliance, which is one of my favorite matches of all time. Maybe the best War Games match of all time if you look at the star power and talent between the 10 guys involved. Hall of Famers, future Hall of Famers, legends, icons, and one of the biggest stars of all time was involved in that match. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Of course, he was stunning Steve Austin back then. Eventually, he becomes backup ring announcer behind Gary Michael Capetta, who was one of the better, doesn't get a lot of credit as being a great ring announcer. Maybe he should start with the wrestling fans, this contest, everyone fall. It's for the World Heavyweight title, World Heavyweight Championship. I thought he was really good at that. Eventually becomes the full-time announcer in 1995 because, well, Gary Michael had the lead. They were paying Michael Buffer, of course, to come in and do the main event shots. So eventually, David Penzer becomes the full-time announcer in 95. And the main ring announcer for WWE Monday Nitro and Thunder during its height, that big time in wrestling, which one of the greatest times, the golden age of wrestling. And he becomes a household name kind of in a lot of ways because people know him when he announces the matches. He also did stuff off the show, like get the crowd pumped up and stuff. If you read the book, you'll see what I mean. He tells a lot of funny stories. A funny story involving Chris Jericho from Inside Edition, where it's kind of funny. You know, he's kind of doing like he think he's like the victim of a prank, but it's like a harmless prank. But it got on national TV. I've seen it before. It's funny. Chris Jericho, I think, talked about an episode of WWE Live, if I recall. You know, boys will be boys. He was in this chapter here called One of the Boys, where he talks about all the guys he hung out with, like Ric Flair, obviously Chris Jericho, Ric Flair on his, Eddie Guerrero, and many others. He said it was like fantasy camp being a ring announcer around guys like Tony Schiavone, Gene Okerlund, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Larry Zbyszko, Dusty Rhodes, Scott Hudson, Mike Tenay. A lot of talented guys worked with WCW, so I love WCW. One of my favorite companies of all time to watch, without a doubt. Peachtree City Gang, which involved guys like him, William Regal, and Fit Finley. Yeah, so because he lived in Atlanta, they called it the Peachtree City Gang. And all the successes coming. Goldberg beating Hogan for the title. Nitro, which was one of the loudest. He sounds like the loudest pop you ever heard. I mean, it was pretty loud. I mean, I remember that night. Actually, we just celebrated the 26th year anniversary of that. Time flies. And, there's no internet, so no one's taking their cell phones with, like, flash because everybody was just staying in the moment there. It's something to see. Go look back on Peacock, you'll see it. And eventually, WWE starts to slip around 99, And during this time, he's actually helping Jimmy Hart with WWE Saturday, which was the secondary shows. I guess it was WWE Monday Nitro, WWE Thunder, and then WWE Saturday Night. And Saturday Night starts doing good these ratings because they're focused on newer, younger talent that's not being used on the main shows. Like, you eventually see people like Chuck Palumbo on there. I think Devin Storm, Crowbar was on there. Guys like that. I think AJ Styles may have gotten his start on there some back then. Because I know he got his start on Thunder at the end of WCW in 2001, but you got to go back and check those out if you can. So eventually, Eric Bischoff is ousted of power in 99, and Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara joined to help save WCW. But, like David Penzer said, they were trying, but the shows made, no sense. They were running too many storylines at one time. He didn't have a filter. He was running it, all but that. The young guys liked it. He was giving new guys a chance, which is good, but some of the veterans didn't care for him. And there's chaos backstage, and, of course, Kevin Sullivan takes over, and, well, you know what what happened there? The Radicals left, as we know, those guys. Trying to put the title on. He was going to put the WWE World Heavyweight title on Chris Benoit, but Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, Eddie Guerrero all asked for their release, and they got it. Bill Bush was the guy in charge of WWE at the time. And then after that, Sullivan gets out of power. Bischoff and Russo are now in charge. Eric Bischoff comes back with Vince Russo. And it's, didn't work out so well. No surprising, because Russo had one vision, Bischoff had another vision. They were just like worlds colliding. Russo sort of pushed young guys with good, and then Bischoff stayed with some of the established talent, but they couldn't find a way to coexist them and to elevate new talent. Although at the end, Booker T won the title. You had new guys like Booker T, Jeff Jarrett, Scott Steiner. But by then, it was kind of getting too late for them. Although at the time, David Penzer joins the booking team. And, he was there on meetings and learning them. And this was after I think Russo was gone for a while. And they were kind of trying to get things organized more. I think Terry Taylor was there. So they were kind of putting everything in the right direction. And it looks like at the time, we're going to get new owners courtesy of Endeavor. No, not Endeavor, excuse me. Courtesy of Fusion Media Ventures, which was going to be headed up by Eric Bischoff was involved, and he was partnering with Fusion Media Ventures. And, David Penzer was thinking, okay, we got a guy in charge here. He's going to start getting us back on track, because Eric Bischoff was the guy that helped bring WCW to number one. Not a doubt, he was the main reasons why, WCW got to be very successful, because he kind of put things in the right direction. He knew there was a leader. at the time. But as it is, the end of the company, JB Kellner comes in. We know the story. Axes WCW. WF buys WCW. Final Nitro. David Penzer goes into detail what it was like. Bittersweet moment. Everybody saying goodbye to each other. Because they were all friends backstage. It was like a family to these people. They all lost their jobs. David Penzer didn't get to go to WWF. They invited him backstage to a show in Atlanta, but then they said, we're turning this into an anchor. We're not running WWE separately. So that was it for David Penzer as far as going to WWF. Well, that's that. My thoughts on Sitting Ringside, by the way. Here's another picture of the book. Here's the back of it. Also, there's a glossary in the back where he talked about run sheets of every show, from Saturday night to Pro, to Worldwide, to Nitro with Thunder, and pay-per-views. If you check it out, look at that back glossary. It's pretty interesting. Like I said before, I thought it was a good book. Insight about a guy's life in the business and how it all came to be. He thought, there were times when he thought it wasn't going to last forever, but no, there were times when he thought he wasn't going to be around the business for a long time, but eventually he spent a long time in the business. He was still around on Impact. As of recently, a couple months ago, he was on TNA Impact, so guy's been around a bit long time. And I think it's a great book. It's a complimentary book, almost like to Nitro, which is another one of Guy Evans' books. And thanks to David Penzer and Guy Evans for putting on this great book, writing it together. I think they have good collaborations. Here's another Nitro book. Here's the first Nitro book, by the way. And Guy Evans has another book coming out about Nitro. I don't know the name of it, but I'm going to look it up and see what the name of it is, because one thing will be, I love WCW. I love WCW. I'm wearing the WCW shirt. I watch the stuff on Peacock, all of these. I even watched WCW shows before the Nitro, because I think there's a lot of hidden gems, lost gems in those WCWs that people don't know about. Going back to Jim Crockett, who was part of the NWA. I think Guy Evans does great work. He also did a book called Grateful by Eric Bischoff, and he collaborated with him on that. I haven't read that yet, but I hope to check it out. So yeah, in closing, I thought the book is very enjoyable. 2 thumbs up. I highly recommend it. And see you again. Take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.